When an investor wants guidance on which stock to choose, he or she may call their broker. That's where our next guest comes in. Colin Berthoud is with youdevise, a firm that takes data from institutional brokers and relays it to specific clients who then pay them for their trade ideas. It's all about the best stock picks from brokers to their clients. Colin, thank you very much for joining us. Explain how this works.
Well, what our service does is a computerized service, and it takes the trading ideas from institutional brokers through to their buy-side clients. So it's the major institutions around the world. There's around 4,000 contributors that we have on the service, and we're routing the ideas to the specific clients that have asked for those ideas, and we'll reward the brokers for those trade ideas.
Now, a lot of people have a negative impression of brokers pushing things that their firm happens to own just to get rid of them. When you do your research, what are you finding out about the quality of advice people are getting from their broker?
I think there's two possible ways people look at their brokers. One is to say they're either pushing stocks which their firm is dealing with, otherwise they're just order takers. What we find within our service, so we have, as I mentioned, around 4,000 people contributing to the service. What we found is that actually, if you measure the quality of their ideas, 75% of the individuals are actually adding value beyond the index. So we have a chart, I'm not sure if we can see that, which shows that there's a percentile which is quite high, which is just beating the index, but there's actually 50% which are beating the index by 50% or more. So the brokers really are adding value beyond just taking an order or pushing a particular stock.
And when you say trade ideas, is this similar to research? Can I get these ideas by going to firms for their research?
It's a different concept from research. So research tends to be long-term. It's well-researched. That's why it's research. It looks into all the qualities of a company and says, over time, this company is a buy, a hold, or a sell. A trade idea is very specific. It also tends to be shorter term. The average trade idea in our system is about 3 months, and a trade idea typically says go long this stock, go short that stock, hold it for a period. This is the moment to get into or get out of that particular stock. So the way people use that, a buy side might use that to say, as part of our strategy, we're thinking of getting into this stock. Is it right to do it now, or should I wait a while because there's some broker ideas that are indicating not to get into that stock, and vice versa. Now's a good moment to get out of the stock because the weight of broker evidence is against that particular stock.
So you can aggregate the number of people, say, recommending getting out of X stock and their trade ideas and say, well, that seems to be what people are thinking these days.
So if you're a large institutional buy side, you might be dealing with 20, 30 brokers. You'll have access potentially to a wide variety of trade ideas. And there's at least 20 large institutional money managers who are paying around $500 million in commission between them for access to these types of trade ideas. So it's a large business, and if you have a lot of brokers sending you ideas, you can certainly see where the weight of broker sentiment is for or against a stock.
So this isn't the kind of thing that the average investor would look for. It's a large institutional kind of client that is looking to get in and get out in short term.
It tends to be shorter term strategies, but it can also be beneficial for a longer term strategy. So if you have long term strategies, you may first of all look for longer term ideas, and certainly we have clients who are looking for longer term ideas, but also the ideas are useful in the short term. Should I get into this particular stock that I'm thinking of buying right now? Should I leave it for a period?
And you're able to quantitatively look at these things and say not just X number of brokers are thinking this, but brokers who have had success with this kind of stock before.
Yes, there's all sorts of things you can read into the performance of the ideas. We have a second chart here which shows you performance over time of the brokers within the system. So just coming back to your first question about the performance of brokers, do they add value? This particular chart is showing the return on a particular index and the performance of ideas. And over a period of 2 years, had you followed all the broker recommendations in this particular index, you would have had a 70% return over the index.
Well, I presume one reason this is because brokers only make money if their ideas work.
Within our system, they're all incentivized by their clients, and the typical reward structure from an institutional client for trade ideas is performance oriented. There's potentially something for contribution, but most of the reward is performance oriented. You'll get more commission, you'll get your commission share, you'll get a potentially a straight check from the buy side if you put in good ideas. If you put in ideas that are not so good, then you're not going to get rewarded in the same way. And worse than that, you may actually lose the customer. Once customers start, institutional buy-side firms start monitoring the ideas, it's very straightforward for them to see who is adding value and who's not adding value in this area.
Do brokers get to see this? Because I could see a possibility of a herd mentality developing.
It's not so widespread that there is a herd mentality. You certainly do get people who send ideas to more than one client, but typically it's only to five clients, something of that type.
Colin Berthoud, we're going to talk about some of those ideas and where you see the market going. He's compiled a list of hot stocks that have seen significant broker activity over the past 2 days. We'll get those names next. Don't go away. Welcome back to Taking Stock. We're talking with Colin Berthoud of youdevise, a firm that tracks the stock picks made by institutional brokers for select clients. Let me quickly ask you, Goldman Sachs made headlines recently for having something like this within their own company. People were maybe looking at it a little negatively, but you say that regulators like what you do.
Well, the reason that regulators like systems like this is that for years, 50 years or more, brokers have given trade tips to their clients. That's something that happens all of the time. What our type of system does is capture that idea, turn it into market color and relay it to a client. And it allows a regulator, if they wish, to go and see the full audit trail of everything that's happened between the broker and the client. So there can be no funny business about the idea. So in Europe, the FSA has decided this is a very good thing and they've ruled on it.
All right. You've got a list of hot stocks. If we're going to do an audit trail here, let's lay them out and we can see how they perform.
Yes, so there's some stocks, there's some specific stocks, all of them longs in fact, which is quite interesting, going against the sentiment of the market as a whole. But first of all, we've got a chart here, again I'm not sure if you can see that, which shows the overall sentiment within the TIM versus the S&P index. So what we showed at the beginning of the year was a steep fall against the S&P, so everyone was going bearish. So what we're doing here is taking the aggregate of all the tips across the system, and there's 1,000 to 2,000 tips in the system every day, and saying, are those mainly short, are they mainly long, are they closing out short positions, are they putting on new long positions? If we look at that total aggregate, we get a feel for the sentiment across the whole market, not just for the individual trading tips.
In those longs, who's hot?
And within the longs, the hot stocks are, first of all, Accenture, which I think everyone seems to be agreed is a good IT stock. IT in general has not done so well. We've seen Europe and US sentiment fall for IT. We've seen telco stock, we've seen Alcatel-Lucent as another long stock. The US telco sentiment is up. Europe sentiment is up as well.
What about in the UK?
And in the UK, we have a defence stock, British Aerospace, which again is long. The whole UK defence sector is up, but then British Aerospace is a large part of the defence sector in the UK. Defence in the US is down.
And top stock in Europe?
And the top stock in Europe is Bayer AG. So that's a healthcare stock. Healthcare is up in general. Bayer is up. It's also interesting that Bayer actually own quite a large part of the cottonseed industry in the US.
Stocks to watch. We'll keep an eye on those. Thank you very much, Colin Berthoud. Very interesting. We're out of time, though. Thanks for joining us on Taking Stock. As a reminder, you can catch Taking Stock on Bloomberg Radio each afternoon at 3 Eastern. You can also download podcasts of the program at Bloomberg.com. That's it for today. I'm Michael McKee. Thanks for being with us on Bloomberg.